Redditors in hiring positions. What small things immediately make you say no to the potential employee? Why? The biggest one for me was always whether they were responding thoughtfully and specifically to prompts or just using vague interviewee language. Related, if they answer one question in a condescending tone, it's not a good sign. Everyone will hate them, and you for hiring them. If they show bad attitude in an interview, wait till they've been on the job for a few months. It tripped me out when I started doing interviewing and hiring for the first time. I had no idea how weird and rude people could be when applying for a job. It gave me a lot more confidence going forward when applying for jobs myself when I realized just being able to string coherent sentences together on my resume and being a normal, friendly human being in person was putting me ahead of the pack. Are you the type of person to ask, what is your greatest weakness? This is always a terrible way to ask this question. It should really be asked, what skills would you like to improve on and why? I think if you want honest answers, then don't ask questions where the interviewee will be unsure of how truthful to be. What's your biggest weakness? Poison and fighting types, used this before. 10 out of 10, will use again. Treating everyone but the hiring manager disrespectfully. I was in a management position in fast food. I didn't do the hiring, but one minor responsibility was accepting applications that people brought in and answering any initial questions. The hiring manager always listened to the other managers' initial impressions of the applicants. So many applications were thrown out of the stack without ever being considered because the applicant didn't think anyone mattered but the person that made the final decision. I even had one lady come in and basically tell us that she would definitely be hired and be placed over us in management and that she planned on cleaning up our act. We had a good laugh with the hiring manager before tossing her app in the trash. A bunch of places I worked had a system where you rated resumes you were handed. Most used smiley faces / frowny faces. If the person was a jerk, I'd just put a sad face on it after they left. If they were nice, friendly, and professional, I'd smiley face it. I became a plant manager when I was 25 and just after I got the job I had to hire my replacement as a production planner. Since I was fresh on it, the regional manager wanted to sit in on the interview with me and mostly led the interviews, about 70/30. There was one candidate that nailed the interview more or less and I gave him a tour after on my own without my boss. As soon as the tour started, he was a dismissive prick. 100% attitude change. Guess who had final decision and was going to be his boss, which he clearly must not have understood. He didn't get the job. I was hiring. A candidate applied who was perfect on paper. I agreed to interview her at a conference we were both to attend. She was perfect IRL too. Easiest hire decision ever. Then, next day, I was a few places behind her in the hotel checkout queue. She was being a massive bitch to the clerk about some trivial non-issue, so I didn't hire her. My parents always taught me to treat everyone from the CEO to the janitor the same. One of the best pieces of advice I ever received was, don't piss off the receptionist. They have more clout than you think. This is golden, Mr. Skeletal. It appears only once every 20,000 years. Like the video and subscribe to comment awards in 20 seconds or you will never have calcium and good bones again. Now back to scheduled programming. There was the guy who, when I walked into the conference room to interview him, told me to have a seat and said, let's talk. You're probably wondering why I brought you here. The ultimate power move. Assert dominance. Fart loudly while maintaining eye contact. When shaking hands, never let go. For phone / Skype interviews, don't Google every question I ask you to get the right answer. It's a dead giveaway when after every question there's 10 seconds of umming, and then a textbook answer. You'll be surprised how often this happens. What are your hobbies? You are having network connection issues. Leslie, I just typed your symptoms in. It says you could have network connectivity problems. Showing up late for an interview already puts you in the hole. Not addressing it or apologizing for it will make it complete. Turn a negative into a positive and show you have accountability. Not addressing it shows you don't have respect for me and my time. This, much more this than the more upvoted comment saying being late is a deal breaker. I don't care if you're a little late if you are apologetic and seem embarrassed or regretful when you turn up. That shows me that even though you've met a challenge and made an error, you can be humble about it, apologize, and move forward. I agree. Public transport disasters, car breakdowns, etc. They can happen to anybody. It's how you deal with it that counts. if you put in on your resume, I'm going to ask you about it, so don't add filler. How do you feel about someone having virtually no side activities? I will ask about anything in this category. In fact, I like to start with this area because it can be a good way to break the ice and put someone at ease. I don't care if there's only one, as long as it's real. This isn't a college application. But if you like it and can show enthusiasm about whatever you've put down, great. Even if it's just the one thing. I'm more turned off by someone that has a laundry list of interests and, apparently, never sleeps. I never do laundry. Nailed it. Experience with Excel. In the interview. Okay, so let's bring up Excel and do a couple basic activities. Can't adjust columns or click into a cell. Great, thanks for making this decision easy. CV says advanced Excel user, uses pivot tables. Me. So give me an example where you used pivot tables. Deer caught in headlight. Lol, spot on. This is like, somebody had a buddy who took an accounting class once and said, just say pivot tables so they'll think you're legit. 28F autistic. I have my very first job interview tomorrow. I'm very nervous. Do you have any tips for me? Come prepared with a few questions for them. My favorite is, what is your favorite part about working here? It lets them talk about themselves and gives you a good idea about the company. Also, having questions for them shows some interest in the job, which helps you stand out. Embellishing job applications, like dating profiles. A little embellishment is expected to make yourself look good, and most people can read between the lines, but I once had a dude, when writing down his responsibilities at his previous job, put a bunch of things like used whisk, spatula and other kitchen utensils to circulate sauces and ingredients to bring all food to adequate cooking temperature when being prepared. It was all written like that. This guy supposedly had like 5+ years experience, and best he could give me was a fancy way of saying he stirred shit. Applier. I handled money for a multi-billion-dollar company. Interviewer. You worked at McDonald's. Applier. Looks at feet. I worked at McDonald's. I'm not a big computer or email person. Get the fuck out and don't come back. This is an office job in 2019. Both of my parents claimed they got laid off in their mid-50s because of age discrimination, when they were both proud, not computer people. I've never understood how someone can proudly proclaim their willful ignorance. I'm amazed at how many candidates lie. Don't do that. What's the worst one you have had? Guy said he'd never been in trouble with the law. Later I asked an unrelated question about licensing and he mentioned that he had a hang up. I asked if he wanted to explain why, and he said he had a dishonorable discharge from the military due to a violent felony conviction. The law had trouble with him. If you have something on your resume, it's fair game for me to ask you about it. If you struggle with basic questions about it, game over. And for fuck's sake, if they ask you what's the last book you read, have a safe option at hand. Don't be honest and answer Animal Farm like I did, or the interviewer will turn red and start ranting about communism. Awkward. Silence. Actually, I meant the children's book. My son just turned 2. I got a text message response to a voicemail I left responding to an application saying, "Hey, I'm at the Steelers game, so I obviously don't want to talk about a job today. How's Monday looking for you? I'm available 8 AM to 10 AM. I didn't even respond. I called an applicant who answered, "Who is this? Fuck you want?" And I went on to further embarrass him by informing him I had wanted to talk about an application, but never mind. He proceeded to tell me I was a lying bitch and that my area code on his caller said I was in a different city and he's no idiot. Literally the neighboring area code, so the small things. I won't hire total assholes. How can people be this dumb? LMAO. We are the company you applied for, you lying bitch. People that showed up to an interview in dirty sweatpants and a hoodie or whatever and had no idea what the position really was. Pharmacy tech/assistant. It happened more than once. IDK man, I just want money. Yeah. One guy basically said this. I dunno, I think the pay would be nice, I guess. Same guy. Different gem. When I asked why he had 7 jobs in the past 2 years, he was like, all those guys were assholes, man. When I was a hiring manager it was quick. Edit. Fluffy and BS kinda quick. Not the good kind of quick. Responses to my questions. Good example of things I did like to see. When I asked one person a detailed question, the interviewee said, "That's not a question I get too often." but it's something I want to be tactful about. If I were to think about it for a second. Q response. It really impressed me how they were honest and very professional about not having an immediate answer, which happens day to day in the industry I was formerly in. That's a relief to hear. Usually, I only take a second or two to think of an answer, but I just recently had an interview where I took around 5 to 10 seconds to answer most of their questions. So painful. At least I can look at it as being honest and thoughtful. Lol. You have been visited by Money Pigeon. Like the video and subscribe within 5.6 seconds and you will get rich. PG! On top, food chain, won't stop, new game, hot box that blue haze, 1 lock, 2 chains, no bras, 2 babes, mic drop, new stage, lights in my rear view, 5 cops, food race, faster than a Tesla, they say I'm exhausted.